Hello, I'm James J, and this is my mini lecture on verb choice. I'm going to start with a couple examples from this Strunk and White's Element of Style. It's a tiny little style book, and one of the things that I've been making as far as commentary on papers has to do with verb selection. A lot of times I'll see very interesting details, particulars in your writing, but there'll be a verb like an is, are, when the form's a be, that is rather passive and doesn't do anything. Also, the sentence structure, when you have an is, or an are, or were, or was, it means that the subject is passive. It's not doing anything. And I'll give you an example. So if I say, there are pencils, pens, crumpled pieces of paper, and a mug with a chip on the table. There are. So are is the verb, right? And then there's a list of objects. There's a lot of details, but the verb isn't doing much, right? If I reverse that and if I make it active, if I take those objects, put them in the subject, and so I say pens, pencils, crumpled piece of paper, and a mug with a chip of it, clutter the desk. Clutter becomes the verb, right? So now it's a more active verb, more detailed verb, and those specific objects are doing something. So it's changing it from that more passive voice in that structure of sentence into a more active one. It has to do with the verb. So I've included also in this module for this week a copy of what I was going to be reading from. This is from Strunk and White's Element of Style, and it has to do with talking about active voice versus passive voice. For our purposes, look at your verbs. Is the verb dull? Is it not doing anything? That means that probably the particular details, which might be very good in your sentence, aren't doing much either. So if we flip that around, it changes the sentence structure and it makes it more active. It makes the writing more smooth. The other thing that it does, the byproduct of this, and the reason why it becomes important, is that when you flip the sentence around like that, a lot of times you will work your way out of potential grammatical problems. So that if you're writing in that more passive voice, sometimes you start stringing together modifiers, so that you have something, and then you start looking at this little modifier here. And it's like, do I need a comma there? Is that a complete sentence? Is this two independent clauses? You start to get into all these mechanical type of questions, which might be fun. I doubt it, though. They probably aren't that fun, right? And you can start to get bogged down. Make your verbs more active, and your grammar will become more clear, and you'll have less of those questions to ask yourself. So, I have included the actual specific image there in the module. You can refer to that. I'm going to go through a couple of examples. So, passive voice, or the verb's not up to much. There were a great number of dead leaves lying on the ground. Were, right? Or dead leaves covered the ground. Right? Covered is a better verb, and it's more active. Here's another one. So passive voice. It was not long before he had. It was not like, I get tired of just reading this one and I know it. It was not long before he was very sorry that he had said what he had. Gets confusing. How do you even punctuate that thing? Or you could say he soon repented his words. Right. So more active verb. And one of the notes that Strunk and White makes here is, note in the examples above that when a sentence is made stronger, it usually becomes shorter. Thus, brevity is a byproduct of vigor, as they call it. So anyway, check that out. Look at your verbs. It'll get you out of both grammatical problems a lot of times, and then it'll also make those details, those specifics that you were coming up with. It'll make them more active, engaging. It'll make your writing more vigorous, as these folks would say in their style manual. I think it'll make it more energetic and more interesting and engaging, and hopefully a lot more smooth. So good luck. Keep up the good work.